This is Mostly Linux on Mostly Gaming, episode 0.28 for October 6, 2018. Let's roll. And thanks for joining us here, episode 0.28, Mostly Linux on Mostly Gaming. And it's Thanksgiving up here in Canada, so we're getting ready for a feast tomorrow. It's Saturday today, October the 6th. We're having a bunch of family over. We're going to have the turkey. We're going to do the ham. We're going to do everything that you do on Thanksgiving, because in Canada it comes a month earlier because it gets colder in most of Canada than it gets in the US. And Thanksgiving is a harvest festival. And so the harvest typically in Canada would take place sooner. And so as a result, Thanksgiving comes earlier. Anyway, that's that. I mean, next week I will be giving some thanks for the final arrival of my GTX 2080 Ti, which I just got notification from NVIDIA yesterday, actually, that it has shipped. It is expected to arrive on October 9th, and hopefully that will join my Ryzen 2700X, which has recently been installed into my new gaming computer, along with a new motherboard, an X470, the Aorus X470. I've got 16 gigs of the 3200 RAM. I believe that's also gigabyte. And yeah, just all sorts of stuff going on over there. I think let's put up a video right now. There's the flashing lights. Yeah, so that's what it is. That's coming together. Hopefully the 2080 Ti is going to come in and take its place there amongst the rest of the good stuff in my box. What else? Well, we've got a number of ways for you to reach us. If you are connecting here via the mostlylinux.libsyn.com website, you can, of course, listen to it on the website there. But the better way is to subscribe. You can subscribe to our audio podcast right through that website, mostlylinux.libsyn.com. There's an RSS feed button there, but the easier way to do it is to basically go to Apple Podcasts. You can subscribe there. You can do it on Stitcher. You can do it on Dogcatcher. You can do it on Spotify. You can do it on Google Play. Whatever you listen to your podcast on, search for Mostly Linux or Mostly_Linux or just Mostly, and it'll probably come up in the list. So subscribe there so that we can see that you're downloading every week. You can also go to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search for Mostly Linux, and subscribe to our channel there. There's going to be a link with the show notes. So if you take a look at the show notes, you'll see a link to YouTube. You'll see a link to PeerTube. Of course, we're also on Twitch. Our YouTube numbers have actually been, going up. I mean, we haven't been really marketing YouTube much. I mean, we posted there, but we had... like 60, 70 viewers last week on YouTube, which is pretty good. Usually we get, anywhere between, 5% and 25% of the total viewers each week are on YouTube, and it was kind of at the higher end of that range this week. So, we don't mind YouTube. We prefer PeerTube, though. So if you want to go to PeerTube, you can go there. There's a link. PeerTube is a peer-to-peer video sharing network, and it's like YouTube, but there's no Google. So you can do it there. Of course, we're also on Twitch, Mostly Linux on Twitch. You can find us anywhere that you want us to be. In any case, let's come back in 10 seconds with the news, and we've got a lot on deck, so let's get to it. And we're back. Mostly Linux on Mostly Gaming, episode 0.28. Neglected to mention, our focus on topic this week is the best of 2018 so far. It's the beginning of the fourth quarter right now. So we're going to go back and take a look at the best games of the year so far that are playable on Linux. And we're also going to take a look, we're going to take a look at some of the top Linux distributions. You may have noticed, those of you that are observant, that we've switched from Antergos and we've moved over to Manjaro Linux. I'll talk a little bit about that in the best of 2018 section. We've gone full Manjaro right now, so this is the XPS 13 right here with Manjaro, and our gaming machine is going Manjaro as well. All Manjaro, all the time. We'll talk about that a little later. But right now, let's talk about our news. Hashtag news feed. Linux market share on Steam. Now at a 16-month high, which is great news for all of us doing God's work and convincing people to move from that other operating system or two. I would think that Proton and SteamPlay had something to do with it. Certainly, there's a lot of people that came in that wanted to try it out and test out Linux and see how it works and see how the compatibility works. And for all of you that are new, that are test driving, welcome aboard. Stick around for a while. You never know. This is a terrific operating system, and there's plenty of reasons, beyond games that you might want to stick around. The market share is not huge. I mean, we're talking still less than 1% of total Steam gamers are on a Linux distribution, but it's good to see some growth. It's been a little volatile over the last couple of years for a bunch of reasons, and it's good to see it come up. Basically, every flavor of Windows declined, except for Windows 7. So some kind of wonky stuff happening in the Windows world as well, which I'll talk about in one of our news stories in a second, too. The odd thing, I gotta say, the odd thing about this September, the month, is I probably got the Steam survey, I'm going to say at least 4 times, but I'm probably more like half a dozen times. I got it here on the XPS 13 at least a couple of times. I got it on the main gaming computer a couple of times. Maybe, in the last month, I probably got it 6 times. And I hope that's not some kind of a glitch in the system that was overcounting users. But given the fact that everybody complains that they never get the Steam survey, maybe there's some algorithm out there that kind of evens things out. But good to see that increase in user base, likely Proton SteamPlay related. And on that front, with respect to SteamPlay, just yesterday, the powers that be at Valve announced a whole bunch of new games that are now whitelisted on SteamPlay. And what whitelisted means is that these games will basically work for everybody on whatever distribution. They've been thoroughly tested. They are stable. They work. They work on the base kind of case Linux Steam install. So without having to press that button to show all of your games, for testing. So these are the games that basically are guaranteed to work. I think I was reading somewhere that there's 41 some odd games that were added, including a whole bunch of Sam and Max games. We've got, what else is here of interesting? Lots of Sam and Max. Commander Keen, Everyday Shooter, Puzzle Agent, Bejeweled 3, Monkey Island 2, Castle Crashers, that's a good one. The Witness, another good one. Spelunky, a whole bunch of them. 41 in total. Adventure Communist. It was also there. You can take a look at the list at steamdb.info. Slow, steady progress. That's what you want to do. That's really the Google way. Valve, we've got Valve time, we've got Google time. Both of these organizations just basically start off slow and build with a slow burn until they dominate, and hopefully they're going to dominate that market as well, because Microsoft just launched with a big hype their Windows 10 October 2018 update, and a few days later, today, they've pulled it due to major issues. This is Windows, folks. Pulls the Windows 10 October 2018 update after reports of documents being deleted. It's a major bug. And this is a story here from The Verge. Now, from my perspective, I have... by the way, that's our Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons, right there. Pure Canadian. Anyway, back to the story. I did install the October 2018 update from a completely new boot on my on the gaming computer that we're building. I've had no problems. I did get a few blue screens of death repeatedly, and I think I'm going to say that likely had to do with an errant driver somewhere. Interestingly enough, the driver was not causing any problems to the Linux build or the Linux distro Manjaro. But I removed the, I think it was a USB key, an old one, and the problem was solved. But this is actually a bigger deal here. Microsoft has stopped distributing its latest Windows 10 October 2018 update. The software giant started rolling out the update during the company's Surface event earlier this week, but some Windows 10 users immediately noticed their documents were being deleted. We've paused the rollout of the Windows 10 October 2018 update, version 1809, for all users as we investigate isolated reports of users missing some files after updating, says Microsoft on its support site for Windows Update. Microsoft is now recommending that affected users contact the company directly. And if you've manually downloaded the October update, then please don't install it and wait until new media is available. This is disgusting. Okay, Microsoft has hundreds of millions of users, and whatever testing they are doing is not working. They're testing through, insider builds to 1 million or so. People that choose to be insiders. It's not clear whether these insiders are representative of the user base, of the types of computers. My understanding is that you opt into the insider program, and people that opt into things like that are not your typical users. But look, we shouldn't throw stones. This happens, recently Antergos had an attack of some sort. That's one of the reasons why I've moved over to Manjaro. It happens, but at least you can see Antergos is an open source small project. This is Windows 10. Okay, 96% of the computers in the world are using Windows of some form or another. And they basically launch an update and then pull it back because it is deleting your files. Is I don't know, if I didn't already use Linux, that would be the last straw. And if you do use Windows, why are you using Windows? I mean, I'd like to know. Send me an email to mostlylinux@protonmail.com and just give me some of the reasons why you continue to use Windows. Presumably for some of you that would listen to this podcast, it's gaming, but you're clearly Linux curious. So, we can see that we're making progress on Proton. More and more games are working on Linux, and you don't have to suffer Windows permanently just to play your games. On my new system, look, I'm dual booting. I can tell you that when I, installed Windows, it probably took me 40 minutes just to basically undo all of the spyware that Microsoft has in there. All of the crappy software that it basically forces me to install, many of which I cannot delete, and it's slow. It's slow. I would say it's not modern compared to Linux distributions. Linux distributions are modern. They're state of the art. Okay, you've got the new technology that is being developed, and you're ahead of the curve. And if you are a geek for technology, you got to be on Linux. I mean, you do. You got to be on Linux. Join us. It's better. It's better over here. And you know what? You don't have to worry about Windows 10 whatever update deleting your files. So that 2 stories on Linux momentum, and 1 story of Microsoft revoking a new version of Windows because it's deleting your files. But there's nothing as good as freebies, and XCOM 2, one of the best games of all time, I probably have hundreds of hours in that game, is going to receive a free War of the Chosen Tactical Legacy Pack on PC. This is basically new DLC for XCOM 2, and it's going to be free to everybody that purchased the game. And it's going to include a whole bunch of new maps and a whole bunch of new features on it. Apparently, I do remember reading through maybe Reddit, and there has been confirmation that this will be coming to Linux shortly after the Windows release. This story here is from Destructoid, Chris Moyes. He says, a huge update is headed toward the PC version of turn-based strategy titled XCOM 2 War of the Chosen that will bring new modes and content to the planet-saving adventure. Better yet, the update will be free from October 9th until December 3rd. The Tactical Legacy Pack intends to bridge the gap between XCOM 2 and previous release XCOM Enemy Unknown. Eschewing the base management element entirely, this update will allow players to guide Officer Bradford and the Resistance through a series of intense firefights set during the early days on Earth's takeover by daunting extraterrestrial force. The update will include 28 maps, some new and some remastered from Enemy Unknown. New armor and weaponry will be added to your arsenal. Over 100 new challenges will be added to the War of the Chosen, and a new skirmish mode will allow for the custom building of your own intergalactic firefights. In all, the Tactical Legacy Pack is really a meaty upgrade for a game running a couple of years old and should provide fans with hours more entertainment. Why don't we run the video here? Let's take a look.
Hello XCOM community, I am Jake Solomon, creative director of the XCOM series, and I am very excited to talk to you about our newly announced content drop, the Tactical Legacy Pack. We wanted to do something special for all the amazing fans who have supported the XCOM series so faithfully. So what is the Tactical Legacy Pack? The team and I, we looked back at the entire series, from the original game XCOM UFO Defense to XCOM Enemy Within, to find inspiration in creating new game modes, stories, maps, and equipment to remaster for XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. So this is our thank you to all of the fans, as well as the creators of UFO Defense, for starting something truly amazing. Now here's what you're going to be getting when the Tactical Legacy Pack launches on October 9th for PC. For starters, there are 3 new gameplay options you'll find in the Legacy Hub. There's a skirmish mode, an offline challenge mode, and the heart of our new content called the Legacy Ops. I'm going. As part of the Legacy Ops experience, you'll join Central Officer Bradford and the leaders of the Resistance as they rebuild XCOM in 4 new and original stories taking place between the events of Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2. Take on a series of back-to-back rapid-fire missions. There is no strategy layer or base management, just tons of tense tactical combat. For these missions, we created a ton of new maps, many of which are actually remastered fan favorite locations from Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within. We also thought your soldiers should look the part, so we brought back the weapons and armor from those games as well. And of course, all the new maps, tech, and weapons will make their way into the War of the Chosen campaign, along with additional soldier and photo booth customizations. You also have the choice to play XCOM 2 using either the XCOM 2 soundtrack, the Enemy Unknown soundtrack, or an amazing new score inspired by the game that started it all. The music alone gives the game an entirely new feel. So that's just a high-level preview of what's included in the Tactical Legacy Pack coming to PC on October 9th. And the most exciting thing about all of this content is that owners of XCOM 2 War of the Chosen on PC will get the Tactical Legacy Pack for free for a limited time. Over the coming days, we'll be going into more detail about Legacy Ops, Skirmish Mode, and a whole lot more, so subscribe to the XCOM YouTube channel for upcoming videos. And be sure to follow XCOM on Twitter and like the XCOM page on Facebook for more info.
All right, that is awesome. I love Firaxis. That's coming actually the same day that my new GPU is coming. So we will give that a shot. I'm going to play that from the very beginning with the Legacy Pack, and then go through War of the Chosen. I still have not finished War of the Chosen. That's one of the games that I insist on playing on Iron Man mode, and I get halfway through the game and my game is busted because I get destroyed. So I've probably started it 5 or 6 times and with the same outcome. And you know, the problem with XCOM for me is that you can't play it when you're tired, when you're playing Iron Man, right? Especially on the harder difficulties. If you're tired and you're not, you're not really fully concentrating, you gotta play something else. Because with Iron Man, what happens is you've got permanent death, and when you make a mistake, it is fatal. And so you could have been playing, 10, 20, 30 hours, and that game is lost because you can't go back. It writes over it. So maybe that's what I'll do is we'll do it. We'll go from the beginning. And this time I'm going to maybe, you do it like an hour or 2 at a time. It'll take me maybe a month, but hopefully I'll be able to finish it. Very excited for that. Also very excited about Skywind, the fan project to rebuild Morrowind inside Skyrim, gets a new trailer, which with Skywind, I mean, this project has been, I don't know how long it's been around. I'm going to say at least 5 years, maybe even 10. And for those of you that don't know, it's basically a mod for, it's a Skyrim mod that basically rebuilds Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind using the Skyrim engine. And this is an open source project. The team behind the mod has been working at it, as I said, for a while. They're building it. It may very well never come out. That's my inkling, that this is such a big project, it'll never come out. By the time it comes out, you're going to have, Elder Scrolls 6 out, and then maybe they're going to want to switch it. But it is a cool project. I follow it. Whether it comes out or not, it's great for people that are contributing their time, getting the notoriety for some of the great work that they're doing, and it gives us something to look at while we're waiting for Elder Scrolls 6 to come out sometime in the next 5 years or so. In order to play this, once it comes out, you're going to need a full copy of Elder Scrolls 3 and Elder Scrolls 5. But since you can't play it, let's not worry about it right now. Let's take a look at this trailer.
House Dagoth once ruled all of Vardenfell. Under our leadership, Art and industry flourished, and our people prospered. Do the histories not record House Dagos' deeds? Our father Kaima have sunk in our absence. Great House Dagos was the pinnacle of culture, wealth, and strength. But that was a long time ago. You thought we had faded away. Far from it. House Dagoth has only grown stronger. And soon, everyone will have Molga. War. Soon, Morrowind will remember what it has forgotten.
Yeah, looks amazing. Hopefully someday it will come out and we'll be able to play it rather than just watch it. But terrific work those guys are doing. Gotta hand it to them. Terrific work. And our last story this week is not Linux, not even PC related. It is there was an article in the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago that said that Nintendo will be refreshing the Switch hardware sometime in 2019. And this is the Switch. I have it here. This definitely needs a refresh. It is it's a cool device. It has sold phenomenally well. I think it validates the fact that there is a market for for console style mobile games as opposed to phone based mobile games. Though I just received an invite from Epic to join the Fortnite beta on my phone. So I'm going to try that as well. Fortnite, of course, is also available here on the Switch. Now, the thing is about the Switch is that the processor that goes inside of this hardware is in many ways inferior to the chip inside of my phone. And as time has gone on, the newer phones are becoming more powerful than the Switch, and they have been really from the time that the Switch was first released. The resolution of the screen here is 720p. It kind of chugs at 720p, and it also chugs at 1080p on your screen if you've got it basically in docked mode. But notwithstanding the fact that it is an underpowered device with a kind of crappy monitor screen, the screen is nowhere near to being as bright or as high resolution on a DPI basis, or as good as this is the my phone over here. Not even close. Okay, modern phones are superior pretty well in every way hardware-wise to this. Now, having said that, a AAA kind of phone today is going to cost you $1,000, right? This, I think, is like $300. So we got to basically put it to where it is. But at that price point, what could we see in the next Switch? Well, first of all, I think what we're going to see is a they're going to fix the fact that this has been kind of opened up, and modders are using it to basically install mods and other things on it, including some people have been running Linux on it, and so I think they're going to close that hole. And that is that is kind of one big objective that I think that they're going to have. This article here in Polygon basically talks about the challenges that Nintendo has. And I tend to agree with their view here, that I don't see the new iteration of the Switch being in any way incompatible with this. I don't see it as being, let's say, a move from, even an iPhone 5 to an iPhone 6 type of thing. Or maybe that is what we're seeing. But, the difference is, I don't think, the screen will likely be improved, or at least I hope that it is, in terms of the brightness and maybe the quality of the screen itself, because this is really not a very good screen. But I don't see the resolution increasing from 720p, which is unfortunate, because 720p on a bigger screen like this, particularly when you're getting 1440p and very high DPI phone screens, looks washed out and a little faded. I don't see them going to a 1080p screen on the handheld device, partly because that would mean improving the chips inside significantly to basically be able to drive that. I would like to see them do that. I mean, I think if they were to basically put a more modern processor in here, would solve a lot of problems. The challenge then is that, the backward compatibility. If people start writing software for the new chip, they're not going to run on this version very well. I would not be opposed to that, but I don't think Nintendo works that way. It would be interesting to see the Switch go the smartphone market, and you've got the Switch 2. And then you've got the Switch 3 in a couple of years, and by the time you get to the Switch 3, maybe your Switch 1 needs to be upgraded because it's chugging along and games are not running very well. And you have a bit of a rolling release. Then you've got a Switch 4, and maybe the Switch 2 at that time gets phased out. That would be cool, but I don't see that happening. But that, the exciting thing here is that we've got Nintendo now coming out with a new version of the Switch, and I'm pretty confident we're going to see a new Xbox next year, and possibly a new PlayStation. So we could be, kind of on deck for a lot of hardware announcements. I think we're also going to see new AMD GPUs, and we're going to see, what comes of NVIDIA's RTX and DLSS technology with the 20 series GPUs. So lots of stuff. 2019 is going to be a big year for computer and console and gaming hardware in general, and I can't wait to see where it all shakes out. That's our news feed this week. I'm going to come back in 10 seconds with our focus on topic, which is best of the year in gaming and distros. We'll take a look and see where we are at the end of the third quarter. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And we're back with our focus on topic, which is best of 2018 so far. And we're going to start with the PC gaming. We're here on Metacritic. We're going to take a quick look and see what games have notched up the top scores on the platform. And third quarter in a row, the highest scoring game on the platform is Into the Breach. Into the Breach came out, I believe, in February. And it has been at the top of the score list ever since. We have, I'm going to pat myself on the back. Since the very beginning, our view when putting together this podcast was that any game that is playable on Linux deserves to be in our top, in our best games list. And I remember when we first, at the end of the first quarter, when we did our list of best games and we put Into the Breach at the top, I can't tell you how many kind of guys, mostly guys anyway, attacked us, basically saying, "You're not really Linux. You picked a PC game. Yeah, blah blah blah." And I would just basically say, "No, we're not really Linux. We're mostly Linux." Anyway, the world has gone in our direction since then, and Linux podcasts are even reviewing Windows only games right now because people don't care. I mean, this is one of the kind of crazy things. I mean, whenever you've got a small little dedicated niche community, you've got the hardest of the hardcore there with their dogmas, and a good sign that a market is evolving is when you've got people that just want to get shit done coming in, as opposed to people that are trying to basically evangelize, and so that's been happening. That's probably the biggest thing that's been happening to Linux this year. But Into the Breach is the top ranked game. That is a whitelisted Steam Proton game. I've got it. I've played it. I have not finished it. I don't know. I mean, I see where it's good, but I don't. I just bounce off it. I don't even know what to say. I can't really tell you what about it is not working for me, but it's just it doesn't work for me. So it's a terrific game. It wouldn't be at the top of my personal list when I do it later this year. The most Linux top games, but it's good to see it at the top. It might be in my top 10 if I do a top 10. It won't be number 1. Number 2, though, in terms of score, just a point behind it, is Dead Cells. Dead Cells came out in August. That has a score of 89. And I don't believe I've played that game. Do I own it? I don't think I own it. If I do, then shame on me. I think I did a giveaway on it, but I don't think I have a copy myself. Dead Cells, $23.99. Yes, I do own this game. Isn't that horrible that I do own Dead Cells, and yeah, I wasn't even aware of it. So there you go. Okay, so something for me to definitely try out. Is it even installed? I'm gonna install it here on the XPS. It's a light game. For those of you that are as clueless as I am, Dead Cells is Dead Cells is a roguelike Metroidvania-inspired action platformer. You'll explore a sprawling, ever-changing castle, assuming you're able to fight your way past its gatekeepers in 2D Souls-like combat. No checkpoints. Kill them, learn, repeat. Okay, I do remember this game. These games, these kind of 2D Souls-like types of games, start to kind of all seem the same after a while. So I don't blame myself for not remembering it. But it has scored incredibly well. 7.9 user score. For listeners of the podcast, I really kind of swear by the user score over the scores over here. They're different scoring mechanisms, of course, right? These guys tend to give you higher marks, and users tend to give you lower marks. But it's worth taking a look at both when you're making a decision to buy. Because something like the 5.3 here for Monster Hunter World, probably speaks to a problem that the game has. That is at the number 4 spot with an 88. I have played that game on the Xbox One X. Good game. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, let me just kind of type it into here. I'm at the SteamPlay compatibility reports. Monster Hunter World. 44 reports with a silver with strong confidence. So Silver, I find I get good results with Silver and higher level compatibility. Probably better with an NVIDIA processor. I find that AMD sometimes has more problems than NVIDIA GPUs. But with a Silver, I think you're probably safe to go ahead and give it a shot. 44 reports, probably best to take to take a closer look at what those reports are in terms of the compatibility. But Monster Hunter World, definitely a top game of the year. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire comes up with an 88 as well. That is probably my game of the year so far this year. Pillars of Eternity 2 is an incredible game, Linux native, day one, Obsidian, incredibly immersive RPG. The only knock I've got against it is that for whatever reason my Steam my cloud saves are corrupted. So it's not basically putting my cloud save onto my computer, and I'm constantly loading distros and changing things up, and I've got to basically save the save to a Dropbox and then manually put it in. I have checked with other people, and other people don't seem to have this problem. So it may be something that I've done somewhere, or maybe a glitch that is specific to my setup. But it is a little annoying. 7.8 on the user score. So that is very high. Really on the user side, when you're looking at user scores, anything really above a 7 is very high. The difference between the user scores and the meta scores is that users pay for their games and demand more. And there's more volatility, of course, but when you get enough people submitting things in, the crazies tend to cancel each other out, and the number reflects closer to what the reality is of the game, I find, in my experience. In any case, number 6 is Celeste. Celeste has been at the top of the heap for quite a while. That came out in January. Native Linux version available since day one. I've got Celeste and put a little bit of time into it. Don't think I'm ever going to get around to finishing it. 2D platformer. Apparently, the story really builds after some time as you kind of get through it. User score of 7.2, Metacritic score of 88. Number 7 on the list is one of my personal favorites of the year, Subnautica. Subnautica is Windows only right now, I believe. That's a user score of 8.2. That also came out in the first quarter. A lot of these guys came out in the first quarter, interestingly enough. Subnautica does not have a native Linux version, though I have played it on Linux, and it's working. Let me just take a look at the compatibility report. That is also Silver with strong confidence based on 40 reports. As I said, I've played that on my NVIDIA 1070. No problems on that. Again, your mileage may vary, so check out through the reports with the Silver. As I said, Silver typically works. Subnautica is a great game. It starts off, I have to say, a little slow. Okay, like I'm not one for just basically wasting away 20 hours exploring and building stuff so that I can get more stuff, which is really the core of the game at the very start, before you get into the story. And then once a story starts developing, it becomes very interesting and very compelling. Number 8 is Iconoclasts. Iconoclast has definitely a Linux version. Is that another one of these games that I have that I forgot? Let me take a look. Iconoclast. I'm pretty sure it's a platformer. Iconoclast. Is not a game that I own. But it is available for $25 on Steam. It is let me just take a quick look at it. It is a indie pixel graphics Metroidvania is how it's described. Join renegade mechanic Robin and uncover the secrets of a dying planet. Explore a big world filled with intricate puzzles, interesting characters, and menacing bosses in a beautiful platform adventure that tells a personal story about faith, purpose, and the challenge of helping people. Sounds terrific. A lot of these games, by the way, that are these kind of pixely, highly ranked games are thanks to this. They are finding a new lease on life by basically coming out on the Switch, which has weaker hardware, but is great for these kinds of 2D games. And I would love to see, I mean, as we're getting some of these AMD APUs, I really hope that somewhere out there somebody finally perfects a handheld Steam machine of some sort. Would love to have that. Because, the Switch, the games are ridiculously overpriced for what you get. I mean, they're $80 to $100 up here in Canada. I think I've only got 3 or 4 games. I find it hard buying a game that I can basically buy on my, even on my XPS 13 here, which is, 13 inch. It's much more powerful, and it's bigger, but, not massively bigger. I could play it on my lap. When I can play a game like Iconoclast for $20 or $25 on my PC, and it's $40 on the handheld. It doesn't kind of sit right. And a big part of that is Nintendo. Their business model is to basically develop underpowered, relatively inexpensive hardware, and then put their amazing intellectual property on it. So, the Zeldas and the Marios and that kind of stuff, you can only play it on that device, and you're going to pay a premium for it. So, anyway, I digress. Number 9 on the list is Unavowed, another game that I am not familiar with. Unavowed came out in August. Metacritic score of 86, user score of 81. Unavowed, huh? This one did not hit my radar at all. It looks like it's actually pretty inexpensive. It is $17. A demon has possessed you and used your body to tear a swath of bloodshed through New York. You are now free, but life as you knew it is over. Your only path forward is joining the Unavowed, an ancient society dedicated to stopping evil no matter what. It's an adventure game, indie, point-and-click, story-rich. Probably a Switch game. It is Windows native and Mac native, not Linux native, however. I'm sure that Unavowed works, but let's take a look and at our Steam compatibility to see if it works. Unavowed. Unavowed is platinum with 4 reports. Platinum with low confidence because it's only got 4 reports. This is a really, really cool site. It is spcr.netlify.com. So spcr.netlify.com if you're looking for the Steam compatibility reports. What else? So that was number 9, Unavowed. Number 10 is Yakuza 0. That is an 8.3 in terms of the user score. That's the highest of the top 10. Yakuza 0 is 86 on the Metacritic. And I believe playable in Linux. Yakuza 0 is a silver, trending gold with 16 reports. The problem with the Yakuza series for me is, you're up to number 7, 8, 9, 10, and I guess presumably maybe 0 is where to start. But, I don't know, it's kind of hard starting at 0 when there's like 8 or 9 other games behind it. You know what? It's probably something that I'll stick on my wish list and pick it up for $5 someday in the future. And that's the top 10. I think other notable games of the year are Crosscode, which just came out last week with a user score of 8.4. I have not played that yet, but that looks very interesting. Assassin's Creed Odyssey just came out yesterday, actually. That will very likely not ever be playable on Linux. So I was going to put that in the deep back burner. Frostpunk is another cool game. Frostpunk has had questionable compatibility on Linux. Where is that Frostpunk? I've heard very mixed results on that. Bronze. So I would not play a bronze game on it with moderate confidence. That's too bad. I'd like to see Frostpunk join us over here on the light side. Dark Souls Remastered and Final Fantasy XII are other games that I have really enjoyed this year. Valkyria Chronicles 4, I've heard some very good things about. That just came out. I probably won't get into that until next year, however. Coming up in the fourth quarter, we've got Call of Duty, which I have pre-ordered and can't wait to basically look at it. Call of Duty Blackout is going to be huge, and I believe that's going to be the best-selling game of the year easily. People are really kind of pointing over to Red Dead Redemption 2 as being the big game, and I think it's going to do very well. But people like me are not going to buy it because it is only available on consoles. And while I've got an Xbox and I've got a PlayStation, my platform of choice is the PC, and specifically Linux on it. And, it's going to come out eventually. Grand Theft Auto 5 is playable on Linux. And I don't want to have to buy it twice. And I honestly think that is a strategy that Rockstar is using. They release it first on the consoles. People can't wait. They buy it, and they play it, and then they buy it again when it comes out with the better version for the PC. And, it's not like we're running out of games to play here on the Linux world or in the PC world in general. So, let's just wait for it to come in. I think a lot of people are going to do that. And I think Call of Duty comes out a couple of weeks after Red Dead Redemption. So RDR 2 is going to have a couple of weeks to basically find its footing. Call of Duty is going to come out, and then the last big game of the year is Battlefield 5, which did not get the greatest reception when it was in its beta. So they delayed it a little bit. Hopefully they get their act together and that kind of pops out well. So that's the top games of the year so far. Let's take a quick look at the distributions on DistroWatch. I was looking at this the other day, and it surprised me. And you can see it on the screen here if you're on YouTube or PeerTube. Look at that. Last 12 months, number one across the board. Last 12 months, last 6 months, last 3 months, last 1 month. Manjaro across the board is the most popular Linux distribution in the world right now. Over the last 12, 6, 3, and 1 month. And the reason for that is Manjaro, which I've switched to, has 3 primary advantages. One is it is stable. And that's one of the reasons that I moved from Antergos, which I prefer. I prefer Antergos because it gives me better access to the AUR, and it has a number of other cool innovations, including recently a kind of a quasi cloud save option that basically saves your settings so that when you reload it, you can basically start from where you left off, which I have not tried yet, but I saw that kind of hit, and that's something I want to give I want to eventually give a shot to. But the problem with Antergos for me is that it has proved to be unstable, and it kind of degrades over time to the point where eventually I need to reinstall it, a fresh install, because it slows it down. My boot time and kind of shutdown times increase as it does stuff in the background. And in the worst case, and this has happened to me a couple of times, I'd say at least 3 times on my main gaming laptop, my main gaming desktop, is it gets corrupted and that's it. It's dead. I need to basically reboot. With Arch-based distributions, rolling distributions in general, that's a trade-off. Okay, you've got stability versus versus bleeding edge, and Antergos chooses more bleeding edge over stability. I prefer that in general, but it's just a little too much of that, to the extent that it crashes. So switched over to Manjaro. Manjaro has proven so far to be very stable, and the second reason that I would say Manjaro is doing so well is that it is really easy to use. I mean, if you are a beginner and you want to basically check out Linux, Manjaro is a great choice. It is easy to use, easy to install. It hides a lot of things that are complicated behind kind of walls, let's say. So you don't ever have to see them, or a new user doesn't have to basically deal with them. But the power is still there, which is point number 3. If you want to go in and tweak it, if you want to access the Arch user repository, if you want to basically update your kernel or your drivers, those little gadgets are all there and accessible and available for you. And so far, I'm happy with Manjaro. Like I said, I find I still kind of long for Antergos here and there, but but I don't long for crashes that need for me to reinstall my operating system. So that's Manjaro. That if you are installing, if you're coming from Windows and you're looking to basically get into Linux, my advice is to begin with Manjaro. Number 2 is Mint across the board for the last 12, 6, and 3 months, with Elementary OS taking the second spot in the last 1 month. Mint is an Ubuntu based distribution. That means that it is based on the core work that is done by the Ubuntu developers, Canonical, and the contributors to that project. So they take that base and then they effectively make it their own. So Mint is a little more familiar for people that are coming from Windows. You know what? I'm not a big fan. I really don't see from why I would go to Mint rather than say Ubuntu. But a lot of people obviously swear by that. As you can see, it's number 2. Elementary OS is another one that is ranking very highly here. Elementary is kind of like a very, very graphically good-looking distribution, also based on Ubuntu. Those guys are doing a good job of making it look familiar, particularly for Mac OS users. So if you're coming at Linux from the Mac OS side, Elementary OS will probably look very familiar to you. If you're coming at it from the Windows side, Mint will probably look familiar to you. But if you're coming from either side and you want to basically, start with something fresh and learn it, I would go with Manjaro. I'd go with Manjaro, the GNOME version, which is what I use here, as you can see on my desktop. GNOME is my desktop environment of choice. And so those are the top ones. Ubuntu is kind of, in the 3 to 5. I'm not a big fan of Ubuntu or Canonical, although I am a big fan of GNOME, which is the desktop environment. Other kind of sprinklings of distributions up here in the top 10 are Solus, which has been declining. Problem with Solus is, that used to be my distribution of choice. It is so slow. So slow. It's a rolling distro. I think they're still like on the 390 driver for NVIDIA, right? It is slow. It is on version 3.99999. They refuse to kind of call it 4 for whatever quirky reason that they have. But I would not recommend Solus to anybody right now. It is a terrific project. Once they basically get their act together and start doing continuous updates and revisions, and once it's finished, it may be good. How about that? I can't wait to see it when it's done. Antergo seems to be up there in the top 10, also declining. Antergo was hit by some kind of a hack attack, and so people have been moving off of that, including guys like myself. Fedora, of course, KDE Neon, a whole bunch of the other ones. But top ones, I would say, here for the first, last year tend to be Manjaro, Mint, Ubuntu, Elementary, looks like Debian, and MX Linux is up there as well. I'm not really aware. I don't know much about MX Linux. That would bear some looking into. Something that's really just popped up, because I don't remember seeing that ever before. MX Linux is number 6 in the last year, number 4 in the last 6 months, number 4 in the last 3 months, and number 3 in the last 3 months. So that's something that is kind of, number 3 in the last month with a bullet. And that's our focus on topic this week. Let's leave it there, and I'll be back in 10 seconds with a look at a couple of the new games out this week. And we're back. Thanks for sticking with us here on episode 0.28 of Mostly Linux on Mostly Gaming with our Discovery Queue. Our Discovery Queue, there's a couple of new games this week for the Linux community. First one we're going to take a look at is called Vigilantes. Vigilantes is a combat-focused, turn-based tactical RPG set in the declining, crime-riddled city of Riker. The game offers hardcore squad-level combat in a gritty, neo-noir setting, intel gathering through surveillance of interrogation, a detailed character system, base building, crafting, and much more. Well, that is interesting. If that has a battle system, the thing that intrigues me is the squad-level combat. If that is like an XCOM style battle system, that might be of interest to me. Why don't I take a look at the let's take a look at the trailer here and see if it's worthy of our wish list.
This city's going to hell. Vicious mobsters. Violent, fever-eyed cultists. Cop-killing survivalists. Don't know if I can stop them, but I have to try. Need to interrogate my way up the chain of command, take out their leaders and burn their rackets to the ground. This isn't going to be a one-man job. I'll need allies. A base of operations. Weapons, armor, equipment. Some I can liberate from the gangs, some I can buy. The rest, I'll have to make or upgrade. This trouble isn't going to take care of itself. Deal yourself in. Hit the streets. Take back your city.
Well, you know what? I like that game. I'm gonna put it on my wish list. It is very XCOM like, and definitely worthy. Let's Vigilantes. There it is. $15.74 on Steam. It is right now 10% off. $15.74 added to my wish list. Yeah, kind of. It's kind of a cool game. I'm not gonna buy it right away, I don't think, but when I find some free time over the next little while, I'm going to pick it up. It is the developer is Time Slip Softworks, a self-published game. So far, the reviews are positive. There's 42 reviews, so it looks like it is selling okay for an indie game. So good luck to the developers there. Worthy of our wish list. Next game here is something called Timespinner. I was looking at this earlier, kind of harkens back to maybe Chrono Trigger. Let's take a quick look here at Timespinner and see what that's all about. Here we go. Timespinner. Travel back in time to change fate itself in this beautifully crafted, story-driven adventure inspired by classic 90s action platformers. Join timekeeper Lunias on her quest for revenge against the empire that killed her family, using time-bending powers to explore a vast, connected world. Very positive.
They came for my home. They came for my friends. They came for my family. Now, I control time itself. I will use this power to change history, no matter what the cost. The Empire has taken everything I love. I will destroy them all. No one will stop me.
Well, I take that back. That is not a Chrono Trigger type game. It is basically a Metroidvania, Castlevania type game, which it is a very popular genre these days. It looks like the reviews on it are very positive. You see the top games of the year that we have had on the list there, and many of them are this style of game, and it is $22 on Steam right now. There's no sale or anything. I'm gonna add it to my wish list, and I'll give it a roll when it has a chance to, basically, when I find some clear sky in my schedule. Timespinner is native Linux, so feel free to download and give it a shot when you want to give it a chance on your Linux-powered machine. There, I'm going to guess this is a Unity engine title, and it's going to find its way onto the Switch, where I'm sure most of its sales are going to come from. A couple of things, actually. One is on GOG.com. You will be able to, if you go there right now, you can get Shadow Warrior 2 for free. Shadow Warrior 2 is not a Linux game. It is a Windows-only game, but I have tried it on Linux. It works well on Linux. And I bought it when it first came out, largely because it was one of the first games to have HDR support. And I have an HDR 4K TV, and I wanted to give it a shot. And it is a gorgeous looking game. It's kind of a crazy game. I find it a little kind of over the top for my taste, but I did kind of play through maybe a few hours, made it to the first base, started doing some of the missions. You know what? For free, I'd absolutely give it a shot. Shadow Warrior 2. But the game I wanted to really kind of take a look at was Thronebreaker, which is a Witcher Tales story. This looks this was released, I think, last week. This is CD Projekt Red, which has it in for Linux, and so therefore does not support it directly. But I imagine this will work on Linux, because it doesn't seem to be a very complex game. Let me just take a quick look at the trailer. Ooh, we're not getting volume here. Well, I don't know about the volume situation here. Why is it not giving me any volume? Oh well. Whatever the case is, Thronebreaker, if you're a Witcher fan, is out there, and it continues the story. Maybe it's a prequel, whatever the case is, and it's based on their Gwent card game. Is my understanding there. I am not a big fan of CD Projekt Red because of their lack of Linux support, but I'm gonna buy Cyberpunk when it comes out regardless. One more thing here for anybody that is still listening to this point of the show, we have a code for Dungeons 3 that went unclaimed last week. So if you are interested in Dungeons 3, which is a terrific game, Linux native, it's a $40 game. I've got a code. It's burning a hole in my pocket. Send me an email to mostly_Linux at protonmail.com asking for the code, and I'll give it to you. That's it. I'll be back in 10 seconds with the back of the show. And welcome back to the back of the show. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode 0.28 of Mostly Linux on Mostly Gaming. We very much enjoy putting these together for you, and you can find us and subscribe to us on Apple, Stitcher, Google, Dogcatcher, Spotify, whatever podcast player you prefer. Look us up, Mostly Linux, and subscribe. We're also on YouTube, we're on Twitch, and we are on PeerTube for you that prefer your privacy. It is Thanksgiving weekend up here in the Great White North. And the deed of the week is for you to give thanks. It doesn't matter whether it is Thanksgiving in your jurisdiction or not. Find somebody this week, or find a handful of people, and just thank them. Thank them for being your friend. Thank them for being in your life. Thank them for getting you a copy, or a coffee, or a beer. Thank somebody. And I promise you that you thanking somebody else will make you feel better too. See you next week, and thank you.